Good morning, folks. Welcome back. Chris in central Pennsylvania with a monthly update on U.S. immigration numbers for refugees arriving in the United States. Of course, with the exception of 3 Afghans who went to Colorado last November, every other refugee who's arrived in the United States this fiscal year has come from South Africa. We're now 3/4 of the way through the fiscal year, 9 months. That means that just 3 months remain. But the numbers will disappoint some South Africans, particularly those who are desperate to escape from racial persecution before they're exterminated. The numbers are not impressive for the month of June, just over 1,000 arrivals, which is far off the peak which occurred a few months ago at over 1,500. But the bigger question is the Trump administration raised the cap from 7,500 to 17,500 with an additional 10,000 slots just a few weeks back. What is the intent here? The numbers simply do not match the arrivals and the numbers in the country. Given what's left, we'd have to average over 3,300 refugees per month, which would be more than double the fastest pace so far, in order to get to that 17,500 threshold by the end of the fiscal year on September 30th. It seems improbable that we'll get there. I don't think there are enough commercial flights to move 3,300 South Africans out of the country every month, even if they used United, Delta, Air France, KLM, British Airways. It wouldn't happen. These are the figures so far. For fiscal year 2025, which represent the 59ers who arrived on the 12th of May 2025 through 30 September, there were 335 South Africans, a rather slow and paltry pace as they sorted out this unusual but not unprecedented in-country refugee program. Since October 1st, and bear in mind there have been significant gaps there, from September 26th until the 16th of November, there were no refugee arrivals owing to the Democrats shutting down the government to deprive funding of ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement. Of course, they never deprived them because the big beautiful bill passed in July last year funded that organization. So it was just for show and tell. And the pain felt by people all over America and around the world was quite real. No refugees arrived from 26 September until the 17th of November. And then there's Christmas Exodus, where things shut down from 17 December till the 5th of January. Then an unexplained week shutdown later in January. A pause in the program from 23 February till the 9th of March. And so as a consequence, there are just 7,727 South Africans who've arrived this fiscal year. That means since last year, 8,062 South Africans have arrived in the United States. 8,062 South Africans have arrived here. Now, of that, unfortunately, I'm aware of at least 3 who've passed away. One from cancer, one from surgery over heart, and another person who had a heart attack while they were fishing in Oklahoma. So it's 3 refugees who are no longer with us, God rest their souls, and at least 6 have returned to South Africa for various reasons, lowering that total by 9. Looking at the fiscal year, these are the arrivals throughout the fiscal year. As I said, November, no one came until the 17th, so it was a very low number. December was a truncated month, 595. January, it picked up at 931, despite that week freeze. February, the biggest month on record, 1,507. March, 1,341. April, 1,500, which was the peak. And then it collapsed in May as they were approaching the 7,000 limit for South Africans. In order not to exceed that, in May, they got approval to raise it. But in June, you can see that the numbers did not increase to the previous peak. It did nearly double, though, from May. However, it was the lowest month since January of this year. That leaves 3 months in this fiscal year to get to 17,500 or 17,000 for South Africans. That seems highly improbable. We would have to have approximately 3,300 refugees per month coming to the United States between now and the end of September. Seems highly improbable. Many people frequently ask me, where are the refugees going? Well, each month I highlight the top 10 largest cumulative totals. Now, bear in mind, this does not include the 335 people from last fiscal year. These are just the 7,000 plus who've come in this fiscal year. These are the top 10 states around the country. Texas, with 956, is rapidly approaching 1,000. In July, it will most likely exceed 1,000 South Africans having arrived in the Lone Star State. Florida, 581, comes second. California, 559. New York, 337. Ohio, 326. Michigan, 305. Then comes North Carolina at 272. Oklahoma at 243, which was not even on the chart last month. Colorado at 239, and Massachusetts at 229. Those are the largest contributions of refugees from South Africa across the United States. None have gone to Hawaii, just a handful to Alaska, and most other states in the United States have received some refugees. There are exceptions. So there you have it, folks. This is the update for June 2026. Over 7,700 South Africans this fiscal year, taking us to over 8,062 who have arrived on these shores from South Africa under President Trump's refugee program for South Africans suffering from unjust racial persecution. Of course, this is not a white farmer program. If it was a white farmer program, the farming community would be absolutely collapsing at this moment. Can you imagine 8,000 plus farmers out of South Africa's 28,000 commercial farmers? The whole thing would be collapsed. Of course, even if you account for the fact that of the 8,000, 2/3 of them are actually family members, and say that if all the rest were actually farmers, that would mean approximately 2,000 farmers, 2,500 farmers out of 28,000. So 10% of South Africa's commercial farmers will be gone. Of course, they're not farmers. They're also not white. The majority are white, but there are Indians, there are coloreds, and even black South Africans. Previously shown Indians on this program, colored South Africans, and even black South Africans. So the media keeps lying to you, and many South Africans keep falling for it. Certainly the idiots here on the political left are falling for it in America, continuing to call it a white program. It's not a white program. It's for racial minorities. Racial minorities include whites, coloreds, Indians, and some black South Africans being persecuted, either for being the adopted children of whites or Indians or coloreds, or they're married to someone who is one of those groups, and they're also persecuted. Stay tuned for next month's report, and probably have a feeling next month, unless something bizarre happens, we're going to have very low numbers to report. You know, I haven't gone to South Africa in well over a year now. Imagine if I actually flew back to South Africa. Would there be people on the flight when I came back who are refugees? I wonder. That would be something to see. Don't know if I'll get back to South Africa anytime soon, though. It would be interesting nonetheless. There's your report for June 2026. Cheers, South Africa.